Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the paper talk. You know what to do. I'm in the studio. It's live. It's live. So get involved in the comments and the chat. Let us know what you think about all the latest Manchester United news. It's the big one this weekend, isn't it? I feel like we say that every weekend. It's the big one. It was the big one last weekend, and it's the big one this weekend against Arsenal. I believe Ten Hag will be doing his press conference later on today. I presume he will be anyway. So we'll have a reaction from that as well. Obviously, we'll have a preview for the game. We'll have the watch-along on the game. It's going to be myself, Joe Smith, Adam McCullough. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button as well on this video. Give us a like. Yeah, let's get into it. We've got quite a few stories. There's quite a lot of stories about loans, some loans that are happening, some loans that aren't happening, because basically everyone who's not played regularly for Manchester United has been linked with a loan move. Like the likes of Harry Maguire, the likes of Anthony Elanga, even Scott McTominay, I think last week, I think it was linked with a potential loan move. So we will be getting into that, and I want you lot to get involved as well. Sean Liam is member of the first team for 7 months. I think he sent there a super chat, there's nothing on it, but thanks for your support as well. Martin P says, morning, Jay. Ben Ord says, new haircut, Jay. Santa Not says, here we go with the ITK. Morning, yes, I am proper ITK, me, trust me. Jake Harvey says, no Jay, no party. I like that. I think we've got, is that another super chat there? That's Sean Liam again. He's just firing them in, isn't he? I don't think there's anything on it. Stuart Greenhow says, morning, Jay. I want to know what you think about some of these potential loan stories. We'll get into them because it's a bit of a weird one, because you look at it and you go, there's all these players that aren't playing regularly for Manchester United. We've got players on, decent money as well. We've got players who are internationals. We've got players who, can do a job in the Premier League, and you think, okay, maybe they can get moved on. But as we've seen with so many players under Ten Hag, you can never count anyone out. And I think if you say, oh, right, well, okay, we're going to loan such a person out, then sometimes it ends up where actually we might need him. Now, for example, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was linked with a loan move, wasn't he? Not long ago. In fact, he was linked with a permanent move, I think going back to Crystal Palace or to West Ham. And then he's had these few games where he's been outstanding, especially at Selhurst Park the other night. He was phenomenal. And then people going, actually, do you know what? If Delow's not fit, or if Delow's out, or even if you just want to give him a rest, Wan-Bissaka is a good option, and we might need him. If anything happens to Diogo Dalot, all of a sudden then you're going to have to play maybe Tyrone Malacia on the right-hand side. Is he as good as Aaron Wan-Bissaka on that right-hand side? Probably not. So all of a sudden, it makes sense that we keep someone like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. We've had it in the past where you look at a player and you go, I wouldn't say in the past, I mean recent past, under Ten Hag, you go, nah, this isn't happening for him. And then something, he gets a chance and he shows it, he proves himself. So I'm a bit cautious with any loan move. And it seems so too is Ten Hag. He's not too keen on some of the loan moves that are being sort of muted about. So there was one in the Mail that was quoted here, or a story in the Mail that was doing the rounds about Maguire loan offer from David Moyes at West Ham. And it said here, the Evening News have picked up on it. It says, United rejected West Ham's approach to sign Harry Maguire on loan this month. The Mail claim David Moyes' side looked at taking the United captain until the end of the season, but were met with a stern response from Old Trafford transfer chiefs. West Ham were hopeful a deal could be struck akin to the successful loan of Jesse Lingard a couple of years ago. However, United said no. I mean, what do you make of that? Because Harry Maguire is a player that divides opinion, shall we say. A lot of people, when I say divides opinion, I think it's probably the majority think he's not good enough or whatever. Seems to be a bit of a figure where a lot of people have a dig at him, but there are some people that stick up for him and say, do you know what, he has done a job for Manchester United in the past. He did have a decent World Cup, if you care about that sort of stuff. It's just more recently, when I say recently, the last 18 months, where things have gone a bit wrong for him. But do you want to keep him as an option in case anything happens? Now, the sort of, I know I keep going back and forth here, but the sort of response to that might be, well, look here, even when Lisandro Martinez isn't fit, Luke Shaw's playing at centre-back. Harry Maguire now has arguably become, what you'd say, Varane, Martinez, maybe Victor Lindelof's ahead of him, maybe Luke Shaw. He could argue he's fifth choice. Fifth choice for an £80 million defender who's also your club captain. Now, I know it's not his fault we paid over the odds for him, but when you look at you, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? So is a loan move the ideal scenario? But then, if anything happens where you get a couple of injuries or suspensions, would you rather have him at your disposal or get whatever money you're going to get for him from a loan move? I still think you could just keep him. If you're going to let him go in the summer, I get it, yeah? And I think that's what's going to happen. I think now, just keep the bodies in. And I understand why Ten Hag is saying no. He just don't want to do that. Just on the Jesse Lingard thing, I'll get some of your comments in a minute. What did everyone make of the interview? I don't know if you saw the interview with Steve Bartlett. I think it's a diary of the CEO. And Jesse Lingard was opening up about how he wanted to go on loan to Newcastle, I think it was, last season when Ralph Rangnick was in charge. That didn't happen, and he was a bit upset the way that he was sort of portrayed in the media. I think he said the club sort of made it out like he was looking for, he was down in tools almost. So it was, some people said that John Murtough was at fault. Other people I noticed on Twitter were saying actually it's not John Murtough's fault. It's Jesse Lingard didn't cover himself in glory. Interesting to see what you think of that. If you've not even seen it, it's worth checking out. Do you know what I mean? We've had Jesse on the channel a few times. I always liked Jesse Lingard. I always thought he was a good player who had a bit of a ceiling, I think, shall we say, where, we always got Messi, Lingard and all that sort of stuff. But he had a purple patch. I never thought he was quite the sort of the world-class bracket, but he was a good player for a while for Manchester United. Scored that winner in the FA Cup final, of course. But then it just sort of went wrong for him, didn't it? And I think the low move to West Ham, that really should have been a permanent deal at the end of it. I think if he'd have gone after that, it would have been, he'd had a successful loan, maybe gone there permanently, it would have made a lot of sense. He came back, and nothing really happened for him, did it? And then it became a little bit bitter where he wanted to go to Newcastle. I digress anyway. Sorry, I've just sort of started talking about all sorts of everything here. They're dreaming. Lingardinho there, that was another nickname for him as well. Tabinski says, I think he deserved better treatment. Jamie White said, it's a good podcast, but he was still bitter. C. Jones says, really good interview, just bad decisions made at the time. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. I've only seen clips, so I need to watch the full interview. Harry Yule says, Jesse wasn't phenomenal, but did a job. I think that's, a pretty fair assessment. There was a time when he did really well for Manchester United, wasn't there? There was like that sort of 2 years, around the time he went to the World Cup. Obviously scored the winner in the FA Cup final, scored quite a couple of goals at Emirates, didn't he? Got all them lot rattled when he turned it into his dance floor, and then obviously, when things started going wrong, went to West Ham, and the rest is history. Ten Hag also on a low move. Ten Hag blocks Elanga move. Now, this has come from the Daily Star, and it says Eric Ten Hag has blocked a loan exit to Everton for Anthony Elanga. The report claims it has been blocked due to the culture at Goodison Park. Ten Hag is said to be concerned the plight of the Toffees will do no favours for his development. Borussia Dortmund are thought to hold a loan interest in a winger too. Dortmund makes a lot of sense. You can go to Dortmund, you're well looked after. There's a good history of young players who come from, I know he's not English, but come from England and do well over in Dortmund. Obviously, we saw Jadon Sancho do it when he went left city. We've seen Jude Bellingham do it as well. Now, Anthony Elanga's career at Man United seems to have plateaued, shall we say, at best. I'm probably being kind there. You could argue it's going back a little bit. Now, I like Elanga. I think he's a good kid. I think he's been overplayed. I don't know if he's at the levels we need. I don't think there's any sort of controversy in saying you could at least argue the jury's out. If not, the jury's in and it's not great. I would say at the age of 20, he's still got the opportunity to maybe prove himself. And I feel like United have to take some responsibility in Ralph Rangnick for what happened last season. Overplayed massively. Should never have played 20-odd games. I think it was 27 games for Manchester United last season. That was just far too much. He wasn't up to it. And he stopped scoring goals. You could see his confidence didn't look great. And sort of the icing on the cake was, I think it was against Leicester, where he tackled Marcus Rashford in the last minute when he was through on goal. I just thought, this is a kid that's just struggling. This season, he's had a few opportunities, and again, it's not really happened for him. And the problem is, when you're playing someone like, was it Charlton the other week, and he didn't do that well, and people going, oh, look at him, he's not that level. If he gets a low move to someone like Dortmund and does well, then who knows? But I think he needs to prove himself, and I don't know if he's going to be given the opportunity to at Manchester United, because he's another one who's just down the pecking order, innit? You look at our attackers, you look at the options we've got. We've got Jadon Sancho, we've got Anthony Martial, you've got Marcus Rashford, you've got Wout Weghorst. I know Elanga's a different type of player to them. He doesn't really play down the middle. But we've got options in attack, Anthony, of course. And Garnacho's leapfrogged him, Annie, if you looked at them two as sort of, vying for the similar position in the squad. Garnacho now, I think loads of people and most United fans are like, yep, Garnacho's sort of, he's a threat. He's someone who has this season turned games on the head and got important goals. And you look at Elanga and he just looks like the complete opposite. He just looks like someone who's really struggling. So I would argue that a low move, hopefully to Dortmund, makes a lot of sense. Also, yeah, Divas Waller in the chat, or Divas Waller says Facundo. Yeah, that man Dan says Palestra will give you more than Elanga at the minute. You've got Diallo to come back to. Diallo's having a good spell of it, isn't he, at Sunderland? I think I saw a story on him earlier as well, where he's just picked up Championship Player of the Month for Sunderland. It says here, United loanee has won the Player of the Month award in the Championship for December. Ahmad 20 signed for Sunderland on a season-long loan in August, and his performances have impressed United club staff since Tony Mowbray's appointment at the Stadium of Light, which has seen him become an integral first-team member. The youngster has contributed a total of 6 goals and 2 assists in 14 starts. And an impressive December in which he hit 3 goals against Millwall, Wigan Athletic, and a penalty against West Brom. So he's absolutely smashing it, isn't he, Diallo? He's still only young, isn't he, Diallo? It feels like he's been at the club for ages. He's only 20. There's a case in point. He's the same age as Elanga. Elanga, everyone's sort of written off. Diallo, there's probably a little bit of life left in him because he's doing so well at Sunderland. So maybe if Elanga does go to Dortmund, it'll help him. Maybe that's what he needs. I'm not so sure that Everton is the answer, because the trouble with that is, like they say, the toxic culture there. We've seen it where the fans are unhappy. I think the directors are refusing to go to the game. It's all popping off in it, really. And I think if you throw in a youngster who's already struggling into that environment, then there's going to be, it could end up just being detrimental. Let us know what you think about all those potential loanees, those low moves. Do you agree with him? Do you think that we should let Maguire go? Do you think we should let Elanga go? Do you think we should let anyone else go who have not mentioned? Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think. Solo in the chat says, good morning, Jay. Solo, always good to see you. Hit that like button as well, man. Let's get some more likes on the board. Craig Harrison says, use Maguire in a deal for Rice up the Paddock. Yeah, mate. I've seen this about, I've seen that Chucky in the paper. Someone saying, Rusty Sawblade say, Jay, you've ruined Chucky's disguise. There was an article, wasn't there, in one of the papers about how Brian McClare looks nothing like what he used to. Listen, he looks great, if you ask me, so I think you leave him alone. Manchester Maverick says, Elanga, yes, to Dortmund. Kind of makes sense, that one. We'll see if it happens. The argument about getting Maguire as a part exchange for Declan Rice, I don't see that happening. I mean, it'd be great if we did, wouldn't it? If you gave Harry Maguire and some money and you got Declan Rice. I'm not so sure. Who knows? It might be. I'm not, never say never. We'll have to wait and see what happens. There's an article, I think, in Court Offside, I just want to talk about, Christian Falk, who we've had on the channel, our German expert. He says, Manchester United is an option for Marco Reus. There was a meeting between his agent and Erik Ten Hag, according to this report. When Christian Falk says things about German players and players from the Bundesliga, he usually knows what he's talking about. Now, he's not infallible. He did get it wrong once, didn't he, with the old Ralf Ragnick thing. Do you remember that? Where he said, not true. Is it false or whatever? He tweets, and he quote tweets things. He says true or false, whatever. And he said that Ragnick's United wasn't happening, and it did. But yeah, usually when it comes to German football, he's on the ball. When we spoke to him, he was literally at Bayern Munich's training ground. He was doing his interview from there with all the players behind him. So he's someone who's proper ITK over there. He's saying that there's been talks. I mean, would you have him 33? Is it? Bit of a weird one, that, isn't it? Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. David O'Connor says Brian McClare is an absolute legend. Ed says, why would Erik Ten Hag meet his agent? Surely Murtaugh or Arnold would. Yeah, that seems a bit... I don't know. Craig Sharman says, no to Royce for me. Rajib Malik says, Royce is class, but built like a Rice Krispie. A bit harsh. Don't want him near the club. Well, at least you're nailing your... colours to the mast there. Jacoya Trot says, Maguire as a squad player is not a horrible option, looking at the Harry Maguire story. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I personally think we might be almost done here in the transfer window this January. I'd be very surprised if we brought anyone else in. I think that the sort of the Vote Veghorst one was the last one, and I think, you know, they sort of made that clear, didn't they? I mean, there was even sort that we weren't going to get anyone in January because of what had been spent in the summer, and plus with the Glazer selling, it's always like, you know, is anything going to happen there? Just on the Glazer front as well, there's an article, just before I wrap up, there's an article, I think, in the Evening News. It just says here, United told why Sir Jim Ratcliffe will avoid Glazer mistake. It says on Tuesday, Manchester United fans heard the news that many of them have been hoping for. Oh, this is just sort of talking about Jim Ratcliffe obviously announcing, or through Ineos announcing that he's interested in the club. After previously saying that, you know, he couldn't buy it because they didn't want to sell. Now they are selling. He wants it. He's announced it, or his company have announced that they're in the bidding process. We'll see what happens. I think this article's talking about the fact, you know, he's someone who seems to understand football. We've heard from him in the past. He's given an interview for the Times. He did that live sort of fans forum, Q&A, whatever you want to call it, where he spoke about Manchester United. He obviously has a bit of an understanding of football, which is more than the Glazers have, because they just don't understand football at all. He's got an affiliation with Manchester United. You know, he went to United as a kid, and I think when he did that live Q&A, he mentioned the fact that he had been there in '99. So I'd say Sir Jim Ratcliffe over the Glazers, to be honest with you. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Whether he comes or not remains to be seen. As always, though, we'll keep you posted with all the latest news and goings on at Manchester United. Don't forget as well to check out all the other videos we've got coming up. We're going to have an Arsenal preview. We're also having a reaction going down with any press conferences and stuff like that. And on Sunday, for the Arsenal game, we'll be here for the watch along, me, McCullough and Joe Smith. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget as well to give the video a like. I'm Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk from the studio. Thanks for watching.